Benchmarking is one of the most important things that you can do in your business to track how the various crews and people on your team are performing in terms of where they are compared to everybody else, which is why we call it a benchmark. So this whole process, benchmarking, job costing, is a very time-intensive process. And I want to go dive into how we are automating this process for our clients. So I'm actually going to be building out and talking through what it is that I'm doing as we go along here. Well, if you're not someone that loves the details and the technical side, this might not be the video for you. But if you are someone that wants to potentially do this yourself, watch this video as I'm going through and explaining the various different things that I'm setting up. So first thing is, this is the benchmarking sheet, and this is the output that we want to fill. So we need these columns every time we want to output the averages for a job. So I'm going to jump into Airtable here, and I'm actually going to have my benchmarking sheet up in the background while I do this so I can see which columns I need to make. So here is my Airtable sheet. And when I'm looking at projects here, I'm going to make a new view actually that is going to be called a grid view. And we're going to call this the benchmarking view. So I click benchmarking, and then once we're here, it's going to pull in all of our fields. And what I like to do is hide everything and just show the fields that I need here. So we're going to have the complete date is the first one. Then we're going to have the job name, or actually, which is the first, that's the first column. So we don't need to worry about that. Then we're going to have the estimator. Then we're going to have the crew leader. We could even have the job leader. And then we can do the type. So project type, the zip code, so job zip. And then we want the contract revenue, or what do we call that? Estimated amount. And I'm going to move these all so that they're in the same exact columns. So we have job name. We get our close or complete date over here. And then we have project crew leader. We need to get our estimator over here. So I now have all the stuff that I need in my view here. So I'm going to collapse down some of these columns just to make it a little bit tighter and fit more on the screen. But you'll see that I have the same information here that I have down below. So now we're going to actually work on getting all the formulas in here to make all this make sense. So after I've got the adjusted, there we go. Everything's on the screen, looking great. And now I have these new columns here that I need to go calculate or get that information. So with wages, for example, the way that this works is that we are dumping all of our time tracking data into a time tracking database. So this is all the information directly from QuickTime or QuickBooks Time in this case, but this would work with any software that you have. And so what I've already done is we have our basic clock in and clock out, which gives us a time worked. Then we are looking at the employee adjusted multiplier, which is based on the like a full wage painter being say $20 or $23 an hour, and then whatever wage that person is at in comparison to the full wage. Then we would either be a percentage or it would just be one to get our adjusted hours. So in this case, this person is a full wage painter. He worked 8.2 hours multiplied by 8.2 hours. This other one worked 4 hours multiplied by 0.73 is only adjusted hours is 3 hours. Then on top of that, we now also have actual wages, which is just a formula of the person's wage multiplied by the time that they worked. So, and this is their actual time logged in the system. Okay, so we have our actual wages here, and then we also want to calculate which they had down here is the payroll burden specifically. So I'm going to go add another lookup field here and just type in burden. So this is the wage burden. And so what that's saying is that for every hour that's worked, we have another $4.80 of burden that we need to calculate as well. So we're going to do another column here that is we're going to call this actual, what do they call it down there? Payroll burden. And we'll just call this payroll wages. So we have payroll rate, wages, payroll burden, which is multiplied by, I need to change this, employee wage multiplied, or not employee wage, it would be wage burden multiplied by time worked. So I saved that. And now we see the wage burden is, I'm going to call this employee wage burden. All right. So we have the rate, the payroll burden, and then if we go back to projects now on this one here where we want to get the wages only. So I'm going to turn this field into a roll up. And this right here is so powerful. This is a huge, huge benefit of Airtable. But we're going to turn this into a roll up from the time tracking log table. So we have our time tracking log. I don't know why it still says copy. That's interesting. And then I want to roll up wage, payroll wages, and summit. So this is going to say I want the total wages. I got to go down to more recent projects here, but we will see that for jobs that actually have payroll associated with them, I'm going to actually make this a little bit easier and say I want to filter where all right. So now we have a couple in here that are not empty. Time tracking. All right, so I'm only showing ones that have values in the time tracking. And now we have our wages rolled up. We want to also change this payroll burden to a roll up. And we're going to have it be wage. That's our payroll burden. And then we are also going to get the materials, which in this case, we don't actually have a material or expense tracking sheet yet. So we're going to have to modify that and get that set up. So for now, we're just going to put in some numbers here. So we'll say $450, $100, $230. All right. So we have those. The commission that we're going to pay, that also could vary. We're just going to say $400 for everything. We'll come back to a formula for that. And then the total job expense is going to be a formula. And this is a formula that goes wages plus burden plus materials plus commission. So that's going to be our total job expense. And we can change this to a currency. So we've got our total job expense, and then we have pushback hours. This is going to be another table that we'll reference shortly. And then we have AWO hours. And this one we're going to want to roll up. AWOs is not declined. So in this case, there were no roll up or no AWOs on these projects that we're testing. And then we need actual hours, which would be this is another formula here. So we're going to do formula is estimated hours plus AWO hours plus pushback equals our total. So now we've got our total hours, or sorry, that actually is, how do we have that? We've got contract hours, pushback hours, AWO estimate hours, actual hours. Nope, that's incorrect. We don't want this to be, this actual hours is going to be another roll up of, so the actual hours is actually a roll up of our time tracking table. So this is going to be roll up of time tracking log, and we want to roll up time worked. So that's how many hours. The adjusted hours is going to be a roll up also of time tracking, and we want this to be adjusted. So now we have almost everything, but you can see this coming together, that we've got all the information that we need to do job costing is right here. So the next pieces that we have to work on here is a pushback table. So I don't know if I've created that yet. Nope. So this is a process that we're going to need, which is pushback. And basically, if you're not familiar with pushback, I'll go over that in a separate video, but it's, say I estimated the project for 100 hours and the crew that's going to work on it is like, this is going to take a lot more than 100 hours. So I need another 10 hours on the job so that the estimators can get better at estimating, and the crews can still hit their bonuses if a project is not estimated well. So that's the pushback field. We'll come back into that. The other one here was materials, so expenses. And here we have an example here of an expense database. So we've got all of our expenses that would get logged. So I can pick, the date that the expense happened. The vendor was Home Depot. The description was tape. Tape, and the amount was $5. And the project is going to be on Chris Kiefer's test project. And then the project status is canceled at the moment. So we're going to go to, let's open this up and change the status. All right, so now I have that in. We're going to look at the projects again. And now we can see this test project that was estimated by Russ. And we've got our payroll in here, our materials we need to enter for now. We'll get back to automating that later. Our commission was $500. The job total job expense was $12.05. Pushback hours was 0 on this one. 68 AWO hours, 16 actual hours logged, adjusted hours 13. So there we go. We have that in there. And I'm actually going to go back to make this a little more realistic. Let's add in all right. So the actual hours was 67. The adjusted hours was 63.8 for that. So we are getting closer and closer, as you can see. But hopefully this was helpful. I'm curious. This is just an idea that I had on showing how you can do this. There's still some other videos I'm going to make on tracking pushback hours and also getting your commission logged correctly, material usage, a lot of those things we can also roll up into here. But hopefully this was helpful. Leave a note in the comments what was most valuable, what questions do you have, what other things do you want to see. And again, I think Airtable is a super powerful tool. It gives you the flexibility to build this out in the way that makes sense for your business. So if you would like to chat more about that, reach out to us at helloboolean.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next video.